McGraw-Hill Professional presents Get Your Shift Together. How to think, laugh, and enjoy your way to success in business and in life. Written by Steve Rizzo, narrated by Kevin Pierce. The dedication reads, "To my brother Michael, who taught me how to get my shift together." Forward. How's your attitude? Each one of you reading this will have a different perspective on what attitude is, how it is defined, and how that definition relates to you. But everyone reading this book will improve his or hers as a result of it. I've known Steve Rizzo for almost 2 decades. I call him Rizzo. I've seen his stand-up act. I've seen his corporate presentations. And I've seen his presentations to peers, teaching everyone about the power of positive thinking and the importance humor has in their lives. More than a friend, Rizzo is somebody I learn from and laugh with. Sometimes I even make him laugh. The highest compliment you can get from Rizzo is a laugh punctuated with, "Now that's funny," in a Brooklyn accent. Get your shift together is the essence of Steve Rizzo's thinking, combined with his ability to transfer his message. The reason his message is so transferable is that he substitutes the word change, which can be somewhat harsh and normally has negative connotations, with the word shift, which is much more positive. Shifting your attitude doesn't seem as arduous a task as changing your attitude. This is a book that encourages you to think about what you say before you say it, to think about the actions you take before you take them, to focus on what's working in your life instead of fixating on what isn't working, and to find the laughter in the good times and the tough times. Is this a personal book? Yes. It will give you insights and examples that you can apply to friendships and relationships. Is this a business book? Yes, it will give you insights and examples that you can apply to coworkers and customers. Is this a life book? Yes, it will give you insights and examples that you can apply to yourself. It will bring you from down to up. It will bring you from woe is me to wow is me. Over the past several years, laughter has declined in use. The economic downturn, depressed real estate values, the price of gasoline, and the true number of unemployed have caused genuine concern among all of us, and for some, genuine panic. The beauty and power of Steve Rizzo's book is that it addresses those issues head-on and gives the reader ideas and common-sense strategies that can be implemented immediately, even before you close the book. But the most important aspect of this book is the fact that it is written for you. If you read it properly and implement the attitude adjustment strategies that Rizzo offers, your shift in thinking, which will help you laugh and enjoy your life regardless of the circumstances, will be permanent. Why should you read this book and buy a copy for someone you know? As a close friend, I can tell you that Rizzo lives in the positive. I've never seen him in a bad mood. He always interacts with people in a positive way. He leads with a smile. He engages with great fun. His observations and stories about life are hysterical and poignant, and he will always leave you with a kind word. Known as the Attitude Adjuster, Steve Rizzo has a timeless, unbeatable attitude, and he's written this life-changing gem. Get Your Shift Together is not just a book. It's a gift you can give your family, your friends, your coworkers, your customers, and especially yourself. Shift your thoughts to positive. Shift your mindset to happy. Shift your personal conversations to engaging. Shift your business conversations to productive. Shift your family interactions to enjoyment. shift your job and career aspirations to advancement, and shift your life from where you are now to success and fulfillment. I'm positive you will love this book. All it requires to get started is shifting your credit card from your wallet to the cashier. Jeffrey Gitomer, author of the Little Red Book of Selling and the Little Gold Book of Yes Attitude. Part 1. My shift from a comedian to the attitude adjuster. When times are tough, we all have opportunities to perform our own miracles. It's a matter of how you perceive and meet the challenge. Steve Rizzo. That's me. Hi, I'm Steve Rizzo, comedian turned professional motivator. Nice to meet you. Make yourself comfortable. Are you comfortable yet? Good. Hey, thanks for buying this book, by the way. Or maybe you didn't buy it. Maybe a friend gave it to you. Well, that's good too. There's nothing better than the gift of shift, I say. I take shift from my friends all the time. Of course, it's my job to talk shift, and I hope you're prepared because I'm about to sling some your way. Let me take you on a trip down memory lane, where I will reveal why I left a promising career as a stand-up comedian to start a career that I knew absolutely nothing about. Here you will learn how my quest to break through the emotional barriers that were keeping me from what I truly desired has brought my life and my work full circle. It's all about the power of shifting. I will also introduce you to the biggest inspiration in my life. The lessons I learned from him through the years have been invaluable. Witnessing his remarkable ability to shift his mindset in the midst of extreme adversity is without a doubt the catalyst that allowed me to turn my life around and is the inspiration for my success and happiness today. Chapter 1. A Change in Direction. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Albert Einstein. In the early 1980s, I was gaining momentum as a national headlining comedian. Many up-and-coming comics like Dennis Miller and Rosie O'Donnell opened for me. On the road, I shared the stage with Eddie Murphy, Rodney Dangerfield, Jerry Seinfeld, Ellen DeGeneres, and Richard Pryor. By 1994, I was flying high with a list of TV comedy specials to my credit. Sounds promising, doesn't it? Despite this success, and after much soul-searching, I made a major shift and decided to do something more meaningful with my life. I remember being with my friend and roommate, comedian Drew Carey, and telling him that I was through with the business. That's it, I said. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going back home. Carey said, "You can't leave now. You're too close." And that's when it hit me. How can it be that I'm so close to something I don't want? Making it, to use the show business parlance, no longer held the allure for me that it once had. Within a matter of days, I packed my things and went back home to New York, away from a promising career as a stand-up comedian, and toward the start of a new vocation, that of a professional motivational speaker and trainer. Making this kind of sudden left turn may sound crazy to you, but it was reality for me. Although I no longer wanted to be a comic, I still was and am a comedian. The funny part of me is still very much alive and always will be. Since I was a kid, whether on or off stage, I've had the ability to make people laugh. Sometimes that sense of humor got me into trouble, especially when I was young and talking to adults. It didn't matter how serious the conversation was. If there was room for a punchline, I would blurt it out. One time when I was 11 years old, my father was reprimanding me for lying. Man, he was upset. He looked me straight in the eyes and said, "What kind of idiot do you think I am?" I couldn't help myself. Without missing a beat, I said, "Well, Pop, what are my choices?" My son followed in my footsteps. All through grade school, he played the role of Mr. Comedian. This was a particular problem in the classroom, where he constantly cracked jokes. Once, when I asked him how his school day went, he was quick to answer, "Good crowd, good crowd." Trying to hold back the laughter, I said, "Don't get smart with me." His reply, "Don't worry, Pop, I don't want to confuse you." Today, I use comedy as an attention grabber to help captivate my audience and get my message across. If you laugh while you learn, it's just an added bonus. In fact, if you're having fun while you learn, studies show that you learn better. Over the last 14 years, a wide array of clients have hired me to speak to audiences across the country. These include government agencies like the CIA, Fortune 100 companies like J.P. Morgan Chase, AT&T, and MetLife, healthcare organizations such as Bayer Healthcare and GE Healthcare, regional associations like the National Restaurant Association and the Association for Office Professionals, and emerging businesses like Heitman Steel Products. In addition, I have given my time and services to charities, homeless shelters, schools, and hospitals, and I have mentored those doing time in prison. As I follow my life mission, meeting people from all sectors of society, I find that as much as I may be an instrument of change to the many thousands of people whose paths I cross, I am equally changed by them. So, now that you know something about me, it's time to get started. Flashback to the mid-1990s and the timeline for how this change in direction for me unfolded. First, the once lucrative comedy business was experiencing a major decline. Clubs were closing throughout the country. At the same time, more and more aspiring comedians were entering the already oversaturated market. For 10 years, I had the luxury of choosing any club I wanted at top pay. Then, suddenly gigs were getting more difficult to find, and my fees were being cut nearly in half. As the comedy industry was rapidly changing, so was my attitude about the business. It wasn't so much that I was losing my passion for stand-up comedy. In fact, I loved being on stage. I loved making people laugh. I still do. It was the business and the lifestyle that was killing me. Although I had worked hard to achieve success, it was increasingly difficult for me to actually enjoy it. Old fears and toxic labels I thought I had under control came back to haunt me. I was partying like crazy, hoping that the booze and my comedy friends would help drown out the very loud voices in my head. Soon the evidence was piling up that things had gone too far. One time I woke up and yelled at the dog to get out of my bed, only to realize I was in his bed. Another time when I went to brush something off my shoulder, it turned out to be the floor. I could go on, but I won't. Suffice it to say that my life was in a complete tailspin, and it took every ounce of energy I had to fight the wrath of negative thinking that attacked me. To make this time in my life all the more intense, I kept getting the feeling that I was being called to do something else, and I started hearing voices, well, actually my own voice, urging me to move on from the comedy scene. This is not for you. You know you're supposed to be doing something else with your life. Now go do it. By then, in the final years of my comedy career, I had gone on a quest to find myself, and was deeply involved in the positive thought movement. I was reading dozens of self-help books, attending personal development seminars, and listening to Tony Robbins CDs religiously. I meditated and wrote in a daily journal. All this activity stirred up an internal war between me, myself, and I, between my past and my future, between the known and unknown, and between the negative and positive forces that were battling for control. I had no idea which would prevail, but I was determined to find out who the real Stephen Francis Rizzo was, and whether I had the courage and fortitude to allow inspiration to take me down a different path. As all this was going on, I noticed that internal shifts were happening. I was losing interest in pursuing my past desires, especially the need for fame and fortune. Slowly, I had begun to acquire a different set of values and beliefs. Many of the things I had thought were important proved to be trivial. Auditions had become burdensome, and I found that I was no longer obsessed with achieving the holy grail of comedy, my own sitcom. Time marched on, and still I tried to ignore the fact that I was going through changes. The more I suppressed my true feelings, the more chaotic and frustrating my life became. My family was on Long Island, but my work demanded that I live in Los Angeles, where I rented an apartment. When I was not on the road working to pay the bills, I was in Los Angeles, auditioning for television and radio commercials, sitcoms, and movies. In between, I would fly home and spend time with my wife Gina and my son Sean. At this juncture, my days had become about going through the motions in an angry haze. The dedication and enthusiasm I once had for my life as a comedian was virtually gone. No matter what I did, or how hard I tried, my heart just wasn't in it. The fact that I was still funny, that I got consistent feedback, that the big break was about to happen, only made me feel more miserable and confused. I had made major sacrifices, had dedicated a great part of my life to the world of stand-up comedy, and to admit to myself now that it was all over was too much to bear. One day in the middle of a Tony Robbins seminar, it hit me. This is one of the things that I love about life. You never know when or how you're going to receive that long-awaited moment of clarity. But when it hits, there is absolutely no denying it. The lecture was over, and I was putting the finishing touches on my notes. I was in awe of Tony's total command of the audience. Then I realized that what really impressed me was how he used his sense of humor as a tool to keep everyone engaged. I went to put my pen down, but found that my hand still hovered over the page. I know this will sound crazy, but the pen seemed to have a mind of its own. Suddenly I, or it, began to write. You can do this. You should do this. You will do this. One of the voices I referred to earlier was back, and this time the words it spoke became my wake-up call to follow my heart and pursue a career as a motivational speaker. Yes, I said, and then wrote, I don't know how, but that's exactly what I'm going to do, whatever it takes. I looked at my pen as if it had some sort of magical power and said, Where have you been all this time? Then I looked over my shoulder to make sure no one was watching me, or even worse, plotting to steal my magic, life-changing Bic rollerball. I told myself that the time had come for me to acknowledge the reality of my situation. Even though it was scary and confusing, I would move forward with this seemingly left-field idea and take the steps needed to make a change in my career. As soon as I came to this decision, I felt a physical surge of relief flow through my body. I knew that somehow I would make it work. That's when I packed my belongings, moved out of my LA apartment, and flew back home to New York. A few days later, I notified my manager, agent, and publicist. I thanked them for their years of support and told them I was no longer in need of their services. They all thought I was crazy. Who could blame them? Even I thought I was crazy. But crazy or not, I had made up my mind. I was going to continue working as a comedian until my speaking career got off the ground. A career, mind you, I knew absolutely nothing about. Once I surrendered and was able to make a commitment to that change, that's when things actually started to fall into place. It was as if the universe approved of my decision and began to provide the support I needed. I looked up at the heavens and said, "Okay, I'm on my way. I just wish I knew where I was going." The uncanny thing was how often strange coincidences helped launch my speaking career. Whether it was browsing in a bookstore and randomly choosing a book with invaluable information, or meeting someone in the numerous workshops and seminars I attended, or a fortuitous conversation on a plane, people seemed to appear in my life at the exact moment I needed them. By far the most meaningful encounter I had was with the Corvette Man, a mysterious stranger I came across a few months after I flew back home to New York. The Corvette Man. Even though I wanted to move forward with my new career, early on I had serious doubts, especially when things weren't happening as quickly as I wanted. To add to my angst, my comedy friends or former opening acts were popping up on television in commercials, sitcoms, and other new television shows. Don't get me wrong, I was happy for them. Well, most of them at least. But to be honest, I was a bit jealous. I mean, every time I turned on the television, there they were at the top of their game. And here I was at the very beginning stages of a new vocation. I knew I was making headway, but it just wasn't happening fast enough. I kept pushing forward, but sometimes I felt like I was banging my head against the proverbial wall. There were many moments when I thought I was losing my mind. One such night I woke up in a cold sweat. I looked at the clock. It was 2:23 a.m. In case you're wondering, yes, that was the exact time. Some things stick with you. I got up, stumbled into the living room, and fell into the couch. My heart was racing, and a rampage of negative thoughts assaulted my mind. I wanted to jump up and shout at the world, or God, or both. Hell, I just wanted to yell, and loudly. Knowing that Gina was asleep, I reached over and grabbed a pillow, jammed my face into it, and let out a long, primal scream. Tears of frustration and anger ran down my face. This went on for some time. After a while, my body was drained. I was totally exhausted, but I felt a strange sense of inner peace. It's amazing, isn't it, how you sometimes have to go through hell to feel some peace. I decided right then and there that I had to get some clarity and answers. I needed some kind of indisputable sign that I was on the right path. The first words out of my mouth were, "God, give me patience. Oh, and I want it now." I smiled and felt relieved that I still had my sense of humor. I guess once a comedian, always a comedian. I continued. I know doors have been opened, but you know me. I'm a bit neurotic and a tad insecure. I mean, look at me. 40 minutes ago, I was screaming into a pillow. I need to know that I'm on the right path. I need to know that this is going to work. So I'm going to be very bold here and ask you for a sign. I mean a really big sign that is so obvious it simply cannot be denied. Oh, and I want it within the next 24 hours. Later that morning, I woke up to a beautiful spring day and proceeded with my usual routine. 20 minutes of meditation, breakfast, and then the health club. What happened next was a turning point in my life. As I was leaving the health club, I noticed a man in the parking lot polishing a brand-new convertible red Corvette. He was short and plump, with long brown uncombed hair, untrimmed beard, dark thick sunglasses, and a tie-dyed T-shirt. This guy looked like he should have been polishing a 1967 Volkswagen with flowers and peace signs all over it. I don't particularly care for sports cars, especially Corvettes, but there was something about the contrast of this guy and that automobile that made me laugh. Trying not to show my amusement, I walked over and said, "Nice car." "Thanks," he said, "but they're hard to keep clean." He moved over to the front of the car to buff the headlight covers. It was then that I noticed the license plate read "Comedy" and featured a handicap symbol next to it. Now he really had my attention. "Are you a comedian?" I asked. "No." "Why do you have comedy on your license plate?" I pursued. "Because I always wanted to be a comedian," he explained. "People need to laugh, especially today. I think our sense of humor is one of the greatest gifts God ever gave us. I would like to be a giver of that gift." I started to tell him that I was a comedian, but he interrupted me and said, "Excuse me, I'm not finished yet." He continued, "People need to know that they're okay. Humor can help them through the tough times. Humor brings hope. Anyone who has the ability to convey that message, make people laugh or feel good in any way, is truly blessed." I just stood there listening to this guy who looked like a refugee from the 1960s as he buffed his car. He stopped, put down the rag, looked at me, and said, "I saw you on TV. Steve Rizzo, right?" I nodded. "You're very funny," he said, smiling. "Do you want to know why I have the handicap sign on my license plate?" "Yeah, why?" "From carrying too much weight," he said. "Instead of carrying a little at a time, I tried to carry the whole load at once. You're bound to hurt yourself when you do that." He picked up his rag and continued to buff his car. I was about to ask him what he was trying to carry when he interrupted me again. People do that a lot, you know. They set goals, have dreams, and instead of enjoying the process, they expect immediate results, instant gratification, and a guarantee that they're doing the right thing. And when things don't go the way they want, or as fast as they want, they panic and leave themselves open to fear and other negative emotions. He paused, shook his head, and looked right at me and said, "That type of thinking is bound to weigh them down. It's too much of a load for anyone to carry." He paused a long moment, then continued, "You know, there really aren't any shortcuts to success and happiness. There are no guarantees, only choices. Choices and faith. You should always choose to follow your heart." I didn't say a word. I couldn't say a word. I just listened and watched as he shined his car. Then he leaned back against the fender, crossed his arms, contemplated a bit, and said, "Do you want to know what one of the keys for fulfilling a dream is?" Again, I couldn't say anything, but to myself I thought, "Oh, shit. Here we go again." "Take one step at a time," he said, "because the steps are the journey. And with each step is an experience to encounter, a lesson to learn. You need them in order to truly embrace the fulfillment of the dream. To appreciate what you have is to appreciate how you earned it." He laughed and said, "Hey, that's heavy. I should be a philosopher." He put down the rag and walked up to me. I couldn't see his eyes through his sunglasses, but I knew he was looking directly into mine. I was speechless. I knew exactly what had just transpired. The only words that came out of my mouth were, "Thank you." He smiled and said, It was wonderful talking with you. He reached out both of his hands.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?